Hi everyone, welcome to PWS Summit 2020. Day one is already off to a great start. I'm Maas, TV reporter at TheWrap, and I'm excited to be hosting our Next Gen Hollywood Roundtable. Today I'm joined by an amazing group of women who are using their on-screen roles to redefine the status quo of the industry and beyond. Let's bring out our panelists. Beanie Feldstein is most known for her roles on screen in Booksmart, Lady Bird, and on stage in Hello Dolly. She will soon produce and star as Monica Lewinsky in FX's American Crime Story impeachment. Reid is best known for starring in Disney's A Wrinkle in Time. On the small screen, she can be seen in Netflix's When They See Us and HBO's Euphoria. Reid recently wrapped production on Suicide Squad 2, which will be released in 2021. Alisha is best known for her role as Jessica Davis in 13 Reasons Why. On the big screen, Alisha was most recently seen starring opposite Diane Keaton in Palm and alongside Natalia Dyer in Yes, God, Yes. Maitreyi Ramakrishnan rose to fame by landing the role of Devi in Netflix's hit series Never Have I Ever, after a worldwide open casting call by Mindy Kaling. The show is a coming-of-age comedy about the life of modern first-generation Indian American teenage girls. Alexxis Lemire stars as Astor Flores in Netflix's modern queer teen drama rom-com, The Half of It, which won the Tribeca Film Festival 2020 Founders Award for Best Narrative Feature. Tran rose to fame as Rose Tigle in Star Wars, becoming the first Asian American woman cast in a lead role for the franchise. She currently stars in Hulu's Monsterland. Up next, she will voice Disney's first Southeast Asian princess in Raya and the Last Dragon. And Genneya Walton stars as Chloe Barris, the daughter of Kenya Barris and Rashida Jones in Netflix's Black AF. Her other credits include Netflix's Project MC2, Steven Spielberg's Extant with Halle Berry, and 911 opposite Angela Bassett. Thank you all so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
I would like to start with a question for all of you. Most of the conversation around the future of Hollywood, which you guys will be an important part of, around what big picture changes need to be made in the industry in terms of normalizing talking about and exploring sexual urges, representation on screen, and issues of mental health and addiction. I'd like to know what small changes, though, that you think might get overlooked, so that you are working on to change, or that you've seen changes being made, and ways that you think that could happen. Let's start with Maitreyi.
Yeah, well, for me, what I've learned in like the past year, I guess, of just my career, it's just that like authenticity really matters, and it starts in like that writing room. Like the writing room is crazy. And all of the writers have their own unique stories that they bring that really show to screen. You know, like you're really feeling the story that even though you personally as a viewer can't necessarily exactly relate to it, you see that it's a true story and it normalizes it too. Like for Davy, she's like really out there. She's a hothead, but she's also really horny and she loves it. And I think that's awesome. Like, yeah, because that's real. She's a 15-year-old girl, and we need more of that because that's what, you know, life is about.
Genneya?
Yeah, I also do agree with the writer's room, but I also think it's the collaboration between the people in the writer's room and the actors. I've been very lucky in my experience on the last two projects that I've worked with Netflix, that the people in the writer's room have actually come to me about certain scenes or just things that I may have concerns about, and I've been able to voice my opinion, not only just for my character, but for myself as a person, how I want to represent myself and Black women in this industry. So I also think it's a collaborative thing to really get accurate representation of us.
Beanie?
Yeah, I completely agree with everybody. I think it also is so crucial to see it in the crew, not just in the creative team and the cast. It's incredible when you have diversity in those places, and that's incredibly needed, but it also comes down to, okay, so who is the person that's making your clothing, and do they know how to make clothing for your body? And who is the person that's doing your hair? Do they know how to do your hair? And it's I think it's it's deeply entrenched in the crew too. You can't just have a diverse external operation. You have to have a diverse internal operation as well. So that would be like the little, I mean, it's not a little change, but the maybe more behind the scenes change that I think is very, very important.
Kelly?
Yes, I'm having like a very spiritual experience listening to these women like saying all these things, because I totally agree. And I feel like, you know, in my experience, I've had such a hard time, I think, giving myself the space to voice my opinion, especially if I'm in a situation where there's no one else who sort of has, like, feels the same, if that makes sense. I think the most important thing for me, and I think something that I would love to encourage in the future for women who are younger than us even, is hopefully that there will be a time when there's a sort of community around this on every project you work on. You should never feel like you're the only one saying these things, because then you feel crazy, at least in my experience. I know I have, like, Beanie, when you were talking about people not being able to dress for your body, like, I have had that so many times. I've also had, you know, feeling like you have to speak for an entire race of people, which is like insane and too much pressure for anybody in existence. So anytime we can sort of, just continue to diversify, not just the writers room, not just the people behind the camera, from top to bottom, everybody, and asking those questions of, like, why are we defaulting to something that might have been the way things always were? Why is that never a question? Why are we not questioning these things?
Alisha?
Yeah, I completely agree with all of you guys. And I also wanted to echo just the community of actresses and women that we can use. I found that extremely helpful, because especially in the beginning of my career, I felt like I had no voice, and I could never tell the writer or the producer or the director, like, oh no, I'm just so happy, like, I get to have this job. And of course, I'm so grateful. But the second I felt like I had a community of people that I could, you know, really trust and feel like, oh, I can, you know, speak up for myself, and I should, and every person on set should feel that comfortability to do that.
Storm?
Yes, I mean, I think we're all saying it, but I'm piggybacking off of all these women, and what they said was so important. But I think it's just like me reiterating that not only does the writers' room need to be diverse, not only does, like, hair, makeup, casting, I feel like these people, the people who are making the decisions, the executives, need to be diverse as well. Like, if there is a project that is supposed to represent and tell stories of people who are basically other, if you are not that, like, how can you help me tell that story? I think you or Hollywood can do a disservice to, like, okay, saying, yes, we're going to have a movie about Black boy joy, but none of the executives, none of the producers, the director, like, nobody is that. So how do you portray that when you are not really able to tell a full story, because you haven't gone through the situations that ultimately Black boys go through and the joy that they experience? Your joy is different from their joy. So it needs to be those people who do have power that look like us and look like the real world. So that's really important to me. And that's why I've been so intentional with the projects I choose to be a part of. Like, yes, this is an amazing story, but what is the creative team? Who is the creative team? What do they look like?
Alexxis?
Definitely what Alisha said resonated with me, was feeling like I was in a comfortable enough space to, you know, speak what I feel and speak my opinion. And also having more women as directors behind the camera was a huge thing for me. It was the first time in the half of it that I had worked with a woman director. She's a writer director. And man, I felt so comfortable with pretty much anything talking to her. It was like having a mother on set. And I'd never experienced that with any director before. So something I would love to see more, and I would love to work more with, is having women behind camera. I mean, it was one of the most incredible experiences ever.
Now I'd like to dive into each of your specific projects and ask some questions about what you think the impact is that they've made and what you're hoping to do going forward. So I want to start with you, Beanie, because you have coming up the portrayal of Monica Lewinsky in American Crime Story Impeachment, which is a divisive role to take on. And I wanted to know what you're doing to prepare for that role, what you're considering, and also what you hope people gain from this version of her and what you want to show with it.
Oh, Jennifer, I hate to disappoint. I can't say a word. I can tell you nothing. I have nothing to give. I obviously my lips are very, very closed when it comes to the show, and I think the show will speak for itself whenever it happens. But I think the honor and the privilege of playing someone real who existed in the world, I think a lot of us have had that experience. It's a huge task, and then for that person to be a very iconic figure who is deeply a part of the creative process is such a once in a lifetime experience. And so I feel like I'm so emotional when I talk about it. I feel so honored, but I can't give you anything else other than that, unfortunately. So let these other angels talk.
Is there anything specific that you learned about her in your research, though, that maybe surprised you that you hope people will learn about her as well?
I'm just gonna say, move on. I'm so sorry. I'm like a vault. I am like a tough cookie when it comes to keeping people's privacy. I am like, I think we can all understand this. There is a big part of this industry that is private, and it's like such a weird push and pull of public and private, and I take that responsibility very seriously. So I'm sorry to be annoying.
That's okay. Storm, I'm going to come to you and ask, Euphoria is a huge hit, and we're all very excited to see Genneya get her credit at the Emmys. But we're really excited because even though we don't know when we'll get season 2, there are bridge episodes coming up. They're going to give fans a taste of the show while we're waiting for full season to come back. I want to know what we can expect in terms of how Gia will handle her sister Rue's relapse when we come back, and what you think is important about portraying a family member with an addiction on screen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful to be a part of a show that just depicts what's going on in teenagers' lives. I feel like it's really important to try to bridge that disconnect between adults and young people. But Gia specifically, I mean, even though she is young and we saw her in season 1, we didn't really see her. She was in the shadows. She kind of like stayed apart from all of Rue's shenanigans, if that makes sense. But I mean, even though she was young, even though we didn't really get to see her vocalize how she felt a lot, I mean, she was struggling and she is struggling. And I think she will continue to struggle, especially in season 2, where, I mean, like you said, she is playing a character who has a family member, that family member being her sister, and she's struggling not only with addiction, but like with her mental health and really just trying to figure herself out as a young human, while Gia, who is young as well, looks up to her. So it's a wild thing to think about, because Gia is trying to figure herself out, but she has this task of trying to be the little sister and respect and love her big sister for the way she is, but also sometimes she feels like she has to be the big sister in situations. So I think that will unfortunately adversely affect Gia and the decisions that she makes. But I'm just thankful again to be a part of an amazing show and to have the opportunity in season 2 to really let the world know how she feels and her get her own episode and really just express how she feels about her family and all the crazy things that she's gone through.
One thing I've noticed is that I think sometimes it's overlooked that younger members of a family where there's addiction or mental health that people are struggling with, they think that the younger members might not notice, or it doesn't really affect them in the same way, and it goes over their head. And it really is shown in Euphoria. Gia is fully aware of what's going on, and it definitely does affect her. So what do you think that how Euphoria tackled that and showed that it's not just Gia's the little sister, Gia's going about her life, but she's actually impacted by this and she's very aware of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, even though it's hard to watch, I think it's necessary and it's beautiful, and I'm so grateful to Sam, who is our creator, director, writer, everything extraordinaire, that he has added those hard truths within the show. Like you said, Gia does know what's going on. I mean, she was the one who found Rue overdosed on the floor. So I think those first 2 episodes, we really get to see how that not only affects her, but affects the whole Bennett household and how that will shape, again, Gia's childhood and how that has changed the course of her childhood forever. So I think it's important to show those things. And again, Sam, when I'm reading the scripts or when we're doing table reads and I'm like, there's no way this is happening. Like, this is so unrealistic. Like, these situations are heightened. I have to look at Sam, and Sam has unfortunately gone through some of these same situations or knows people who has gone through these situations. So you can't not have empathy for what's going on in our show. Like, you have to know that these are real things, and you have to just really try to take that by the heart and put your best effort forward to try to portray that, even though you haven't gone through those things.
Alisha, the topic of female teen masturbation is at the center of Yes, God, Yes, which is an uncomfortable subject for a lot of people, especially adults who don't want to think about their kids maybe dealing with that and being part of that and having sexual awakenings. Why don't you think this has been explored much on screen before, and what do you hope Yes, God, Yes leads to in future projects?
I love that segue. Yeah, I think just young female sexuality is such taboo for people in general, even girls. Like, I mean, it's very well known that girls, tend to start masturbate later than boys because it's just, there's no conversation around it. And it's such a healthy, beautiful self-exploration period that all women go through. And I think that's what it is. There's just this strange taboo about it. And it goes back, historically of like, women are meant to be this certain way, and that's just not the way it is. So I think the movie industry is just reflecting the catch up of modern times, which is pretty cool.
While shooting the project, how many conversations did you have and thoughts did you offer up on your own of, I think this would be realistic, or I think it's important we talk about this in detail beforehand so that it comes off real and it doesn't come off that like it looks like a real person dealing with this and not like a movie, because it does appear realistic and we're dealing with a real topic.
Yeah, well, just like Storm was saying with Sam Levinson, right? Yes. And Karen Main, our director, this is loosely based on her life. She grew up she went to a Catholic school and dealt with all of this very personally. So when I read the script, there wasn't I felt like I was reading kind of through my childhood or anything, because it was kind of her story. So it was based in reality. And fortunately, I didn't feel like I needed to really expand on that because I trusted her very much. And yeah, it was well explored before I even came on set.
Maitreyi, Never Have I Ever has been renewed for season 2 already. That's very exciting. Due to the immense success of season 1, Netflix is very cagey with their numbers, but they did say many times it is popular. Whatever we're going to take that to mean, is a very popular show. And one of the reasons is fans and critics alike talk about how realistically it portrays teen life and what that's like. And I feel like a lot of the conversation, though, has been turned to, oh, this is an Indian American teen, and that's what we're watching, and this is so exciting. And that's important, but what aspects of the show do you think people relate to across the board? Because it's not just about that, and I feel like a lot of the focus is put on that, and a lot of the praise is put on that, rather just being a really good show about teens.
I learned something after I filmed the show, and after the show released, somebody told me the saying of, if you think your own show is funny, it's probably not. Thank God I heard that after the show came out and after the critic reviews came in, because I thought my show was hilarious. I would have had a lot of anxiety if I heard that before. Luckily, I didn't. But yeah, like I laugh when sometimes like people will come to me and say like, yo, even my white friend watched Never Have I Ever, and they like cried, man. I'm like, I don't think brown people are the only people who lose their parents, but I could be wrong. I'll circle back and I'll get back to you. Like, there's so much to relate to. There's Davy, who is everything and anything. She's just over the top. She's a hothead. She's super smart, unapologetic about it, but she also really wants a boy. But also she's scared because she doesn't know how to do the sex. So there's a lot to her. But then there's Fabiola, there's Eleanor, there's Nalini, Kamala, all these characters that are all going through something that they never have before. And I think audiences really can relate to somebody in that whole cast. Or maybe you can relate to Davy just because she's brown and there's not that much of it. And it's sad to say. It's sad to say that before the show, before I filmed it, normalized to myself the fact that people like me just weren't in the big roles. Like, we're just not the main character. We're just the side character, and that's it. And then after I filmed the show, I was like, wait, hold on. This is not okay. I will change this. So it's a big thing when Never Have I Ever came out, and weirdly emotional, like, emotions. But yeah.
We've already talked a lot about behind the scenes and that being so important to what we see on screen. So how many conversations did you have with Mindy Kaling about the show and what you wanted to do and how you want to do this together to make it look like it does when it turns up on screen?
Yo, Mindy's the bee's knees. I love Mindy. She's so cool. I'll never forget one day, like, we just broke for lunch. You know, I'm getting my food, and I didn't know where to sit because I don't like being in my trailer by myself. It's very lonely, and I don't like to be alone. But Mindy called me over. She was sitting with her writer friends, and she's like, hey, come sit with us. It was like Regina George calling Katie Heron, come sit with us. And I was like, okay, I'm coming. Like, I'm going, you know? And I sit with her, and we're just talking about our experiences. As much as I learned about her experiences growing up, she also asked me about mine, you know, figuring out the similarities, the differences, and incorporating both my experience and how I am as a human being and how she was as a human being. And I'm really, really blessed and grateful and fortunate to be able to portray all of her stories, but everybody else in the writing room, their stories as well. It's really, truly an honor.
Alexxis, the half of it is a teen film that explores young queer love in a way we don't often see. And there's this interesting love triangle, a lot of conversations about how that works and feelings of unrequited love and all of that. So what do you hope has been gained from the overwhelming positive critical response to the film that gave it more attention than we see some of these projects get?
I think, what was really great was, though there was this aspect of like a love triangle, I mean, really the whole film focused on this, this platonic love that you don't talk about that often. You don't talk about your platonic love with your best friend, and you don't consider it that way. And it's really cool to kind of see that, but you also see this unlikely friendship form. And I hope, there's a lot that you can kind of take from the film. It's got a lot of really great messages. But one thing I do hope that people do take from it, especially kids that are in school and in high school, is like, Ellie, the lead character, she was this Asian nerd who was kind of weird that nobody wanted to talk to. And you see this jock and her kind of have this unlikely friendship form. And I really do hope that people can kind of take that and be in school and say, hey, you know what? This person seems really cool. Why don't I try and just kind of talk to them or hang out with them? Or you see someone sitting alone in the cafeteria by themselves with no friends, like, hop on over, say hey, maybe this could be, something we could explore as a friendship. So that was something that was really cool that I loved when I first read the script, that I was like, oh, wow, okay, this isn't just like the guy and the girl, it's actually the girl and the girl, but it's actually the girl and the guy, but as friends. And you don't really see that often. And it was really refreshing.
When there is that kind of triangle aspect to it, though, sometimes the person at the center that is treated like an object and like this unattainable thing, and there's not a lot of dimension to that character. It's all about like the drive to get that character and who's going to and the love about them. And I want to know how you think the film handles that and develops her into a full character on her own.
What was really cool was, I can't rave about Alice, the director, enough. She was just so meticulous and so detailed in the way that she wrote all the characters. So I never once felt like, oh, just because I was kind of I never felt like the object. She really, when we first got on our first Skype call, she was in New York and I was in LA. And, you know, she really just talked about me. She wanted to know about me, about my heritage, about my mom, about my dad, about my siblings. You know, she wanted to know all of that. So she really got to know me first, and she was able to kind of, you know, get a feel for that. But, you know, what was really great was Aster's relationship with Ellie she didn't feel like an object to Ellie. It was the first time that she actually felt seen by somebody. You know, they're writing these letters to each other, and they're really these descriptive letters that really don't even touch on like, oh, I like you, or like, you're so hot, or anything like that. Like, they're actually talking about real meaningful things like her art and writing and books. And, you know, so she really went into depth with that. So never once was I feeling like any sort of object, and that really felt awesome.
Kelly, you'll be reprising your role as Rose in the upcoming Lego Star Wars Christmas special for Disney Plus. That's really exciting. What are you looking forward to about bringing that character back for fans who were disappointed not to see her as much towards the end of the franchise?
Ooh, good question. I love that character, and I had so much fun playing, I think, in that world that I feel like historically hasn't made space for people who are type. Don't know how to say that nicely, but and I am just excited for people to see more.
Kelly, from Monsterland, can you tell us about what excited you about coming to the project, and in particular your episode, what it tackled?
Yeah, so the episode that I'm in tackles this idea of jealousy and envy in this way that I don't think I had really addressed before in my work. I think that growing up, I sort of grew up subconsciously with all these ideas of who I thought I needed to be like, or how I needed to speak and how I needed to dress. And this episode really sort of delves into that darkness of what would you actually do if you could steal someone else's life? Would you do it? And how, I guess, how extreme would you go? Yeah, so that's what I really was interested in.
With Raya and the Last Dragon, we just got the first trailer for that, and it looks super cute. What do you feel, either or both, a sense when it's something like this and it's a role like this, there's both conversations about the honor of taking on that role and then the pressure of taking on a role like that. Do you have either of those, and what do you think the complicated twisting of those two happens because of pressure? And then there's the being grateful that you get to be this person.
Okay, this is a very complicated question. I was actually thinking about this as I was hearing all these other incredible women speak. It should not feel like so precious that there is something like this that exists in the world. There should just be so many. Do you know what I mean? I feel like sometimes when you are in an underrepresented group of people and you get this opportunity, you sort of have to do all these mental Olympics of being like, oh, I have to be extra grateful because it'll never happen again. And that's such an unfair pressure to put on yourself. I think it's something that I experienced with Star Wars, but also that I'm experiencing again, which is the idea that our stories are valid and we deserve to tell them in any way that we want to, and we deserve to tell them repeatedly from different angles. And it shouldn't be just this one thing that we're so desperate to grasp onto. And so it is a complicated question. I think it's something that I've sort of trying just to be kind to myself. I've sort of tried to let go of this idea that I have to represent, or I have to be so, so grateful for something that obviously is a really, really big opportunity. But at the same time, I think that does us a disservice. It's not fair to think that this is going to be the only time that this happens. So I guess if there's anything in my power that I can do to sort of take that pressure off anyone sitting here of being I have to be so extra grateful and this is an extra honor. No, you also are really good and you deserve to be here. And I have to tell myself that every day. So I'm telling you right now, snaps for all of you for just existing in this world that just takes more energy to exist in when you feel like you have, been othered. So yeah.
Genneya, Black AF is another show that Netflix has highly that is very popular. Won't give us specific numbers, but very popular. So that show dives into what it's like to be a Black family, but not what it's like to be a Black family just in general, but a Black family whose patriarch has found immense success in Hollywood telling Black stories, and how the family's affluence affects their children's identities and their identity as a family overall. What parts of this story resonate most with you?
Well, I think, I mean, it's loosely based off of Genneya's real life. So obviously we are talking about the industry throughout episodes of it. And I mean, all of it. I mean, as a whole, the show is just very relatable in the sense that we are talking about parenting and race and relationships and motherhood. You know, we're getting a lot of different perspectives, and because it's told through the eyes of my co-star Iman Benson, she's incredible. We are getting to kind of see what it is like, in a sense, what it's like to grow up in this industry, and we all know how crazy it is. So I mean, I think it was just like a sliver for the outsider looking in to see how it can really affect people and families, and how easy it is to get lost. I don't want to say lost in the sauce, but like, you know, lost in what the industry is, and also just the outside pressures and outside voices and opinions that are constantly coming, especially in the social media age, especially. And it's like, as much as that's, you try to not have that affect you, it still kind of can in a sense. So I think just a lot of aspects of it were relatable depending on who you are, and you had a lot of different characters to look through the lens of.
Two specific episodes that I loved were the Juneteenth episode and the episode where Genneya is very concerned about being critical of another Black filmmaker's movie, yes, and talks to many of his friends in the industry about how you handle this, and do you say something? Why is it wrong if you say something? Should you not? I wanted to know your reaction to those two specifics, because in the Juneteenth episode, the kids make fun of their dad so much for what he's doing, because they're like, you're not like this any other time of the year. What are you doing? Yeah. So I want to know about those two episodes and what you liked about them.
Those were some fan favorites, and actually were some of my favorites personally to film. I feel like we really found our footing in the Juneteenth episode. I think it was like our third one. We only had 8, so there wasn't very much time to really get in the flow. But I mean, that one, for Genneya's character, he's just, as a whole, we're not a very morally sound family. So, I mean, you just see him kind of overcompensating for his Blackness, which sometimes, you know, as Black people in America, you sometimes either need to have the feeling to assimilate, to make other people more comfortable or whatnot, when it's like, truly, we should be taking up all the space that we are given, and making our voices heard with the platforms that we have. And that's his internal fight, and that's why he's acting out the way he is. So, I mean, he's incredible. And in terms of the 5th episode, talking about critiquing Black projects and how we should go about that, I think the first step in progress with anything is conversation, and then obviously action. So by not having these hard conversations, even if we are critiquing our own things, we are just stunting our growth as an industry and a society and as people. So I mean, it's very interesting, and the show as a whole, I know you said specifically those 2 episodes, but had a lot of controversy. And even with that, I'm extremely proud to be a part of that project, and very thankful to Kenya Barris and Rashida Jones for allowing me to be a part of it, because it opened up so much open, honest conversation. Even if it was negative towards the show, we were still talking about it. There was still conversation out there that we didn't have prior to. And I just really hope that it opens more doors for more Black stories. Like, the Black experience is not monolithic. Black appearance is not monolithic. And there's room for every type of story for us. So this was just a specific story. So we, by no means, were trying to define what Blackness is. We were just showing what his personal experience and the small experience of this whole spectrum is. So, yeah.
We already know there'll be a season 2, and I want you to know, because it is a comedy and it deals with things that are very difficult to talk about for a lot of people, though, still, I want to know if you know yet, or if you want to see and how you want to see the Black Lives Matter movement and what we've been talking about with police brutality. And if you think the show can tackle that, being a comedy, and how you want to see it tackle that.
Absolutely. I refuse to put myself, the project, anyone associated with it, the writers room, Genneya, in any type of box or limitation. I also think that it would be weird if we weren't able to tackle it, because we are the people that are living it. So if anyone can talk about it, it is us, you know? I haven't gotten to talk to Genneya about what I want to see in it. I don't know where he necessarily wants to take the next season, but I really do hope that we tackle those topics, because, you know, what I really enjoyed about the show is we do talk about these hard things, but we make it, I don't want to say palatable, but we make it, we do it in a way that is more easily received and understood. So I think it would be powerful. I'm not sure how he's gonna go about doing it, but I really do hope to see us talk about that, so we can also push that conversation further forward and push action.
Nate, I'm coming back to you because I'm going to give you something you probably can't talk about.
So sorry.
Giving you time to come back around. Okay, so we know that you've been cast as Harriet the Spy, the voice of Harriet the Spy for Apple's animated series, and Apple has been really expanding its children's slate of content. I was really excited to see something that I loved from my childhood be brought into the next generation, which is one of the things we're talking about. Can you talk about that part, because it's so iconic and it's such a big deal, I think, for so many girls growing up reading those books, watching the movie adaptation, and what she means and what she can teach us.
Definitely. I don't know about you all, but I grew up with Harriet the Spy. Like I've seen the Michelle Trachtenberg, Rosie O'Donnell version probably 15 times. Like I could quote it. It was such a huge part of my childhood, and the books, of course, as well. And I've always loved animation. I think it's such a beautiful, playful art form that I've always really wanted to be a part of. And I auditioned during quarantine. It was like, this all happened very quickly and all within the bounds of this time. And it's such a gift because I do it in a closet by myself. It's so safe, which I love. But it's an incredible group of people. It's voice directed by Charlie Adler, who's a prolific voice actor and director. So I feel like I love to learn, and I feel like I'm learning so much from an expert, which is like the absolute dream. But she's a feminist icon. I mean, she had a career. I didn't have a career at 11. I know some of you angels did, but I didn't. Like, she's so outspoken, and our version takes place in the 1960s. So to see that, this outspoken, spunky, vivacious, unapologetic, as you said, 11-year-old just really marching to the beat of her own drum through the streets of the Upper East Side is really, really fun. It's such a joy, and it's so cozy and mushy, and I'm just so thrilled to be a part of it.
Well, we've talked about how you all have very different projects that offer interesting things, but one thing that unifies you guys, even having different backgrounds, is that you are part of the next generation of Hollywood. When we say that a lot, I feel like it sounds like such an exciting thing, but I want to know if you guys feel any negative aspects to being younger in the industry, and if you feel like you're not taken as seriously, especially if you start out when you're much younger and then rise and become an adult star versus a child star, and if you feel like it takes time for people to take you seriously. Anyone?
I guess I'll start. I've been acting since I was 3, so that's 14 years. But I would say I really haven't experienced that specifically. I think I was brought, I mean, I did other projects before Wrinkle in Time, but I was introduced to the world, as they say, through Miss Ava's A Wrinkle in Time. And I feel like that was a perfect introduction to be introduced to the world as like a young Black girl saving the world. I think that's just the coolest thing. But now I feel like Hollywood and just the world as a whole is really paying attention to us as the younger generation and as young people. I think we realize that I can't speak for the entire Gen Z, but I know my generation, like, we understand that, yes, we are the future, but we are the present. And whether we are actresses, activists, philanthropists, students, it doesn't really matter. We have things to say and we have things to get done. And we have, I think, beautifully used our voices and tried to amplify other voices. And yes, we are young, so we aren't going to do and say everything right. But I think that's the beauty in trying to fix this world as it is right now. I think our socio-political climate, socio-economical climate is all over the place, but I feel like young people are the ones to be able to change that, and to be a young person who has a platform to evoke change and have progressive conversations through my art, I think is so beautiful. So thankfully I haven't experienced any pushback. And I hope I don't. I hope I can continue to make a change and be somebody of power to make decisions and give other people opportunities. So I know that was long and winded, but short answer to that is no, I haven't experienced that thing.
Anyone else?
Hi. Well, okay. I guess I'll go.
Thank you today.
That's what I really am so excited about our generation, is that I feel like a lot of us really do realize our power and where that can take us. And I feel like we're very strong individuals, especially with just everything going on and how we're dealing with it. I'm very proud of us. Unfortunately, I have had some issues with people taking me seriously on set, and I've had to learn my own power to where I do not let these things happen to me now. But as a younger person, I experienced some situations on set, and I was being treated very differently than everyone else, and it became very clear, and I voiced it. And then the next day was brought in by someone who was supposed to be protecting me on set, to then say that, oh, we heard that you were being aggressive with one of the people. And yes, yes. So I finally, as a 16, 17-year-old, chose to stand up for myself and then was reprimanded, even though I was clearly the one being done wrong. So that was a huge learning experience in itself, and I really hope that other people don't have to go through that. But it built me as a person to the point where I am now, where I absolutely would not let any of that happen. And I've also extended that into who my representation is now. I found it very important to have, my lawyer is a Black queer woman. My agent is also a Black woman. My entire team are of women and majority people of color. And I have found that in having community and building genuine relationships with people, everyone's always like, it's a business, it's not, but it is. But I also find it very important, and has helped me through even those tough times on set where I've been done wrong, to have a strong community of people that understand what I'm going through, and also feel for me, and also are an ally and actually use their own voices to help me as well. So I have gone through it. Hope no one has to, but I think things are definitely looking up, and I'm very excited for the future.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on that really quick, because I've experienced that a lot, where I voice my opinion or say, speak up for myself. And because I am a woman, and I think especially since I am Black, they're like, oh, you're being aggressive, you're being very difficult to work with. This is not okay. And this is coming from people who are supposed to protect you, and everything that you're arguing is completely valid. It should be respected. And I've actually had it where the other person has said the same exact thing, and they're like, oh yes, we'll fix it right away for you. So I think the more that we have these discussions, especially as women and especially as people of color, it's very important because this happens more often than not. And the more people talk about it, the more it will not be, happening on set because, it just shouldn't be happening. So that's something that we definitely as a community should definitely speak more up about because it happens so much even today in this industry that is slowly progressing. Yeah.
I feel like I should be taking notes. This is so deeply inspirational and moving. I'm really honored to be here with all of you. I really admire you all, and this is really lovely. So I just wanted to say that. But I think also, Storm, like the fact that you think we're in the same generation is, we're just simply not. So, but I love you for that. I think, like, zooming out from myself personally, most of the projects that I've been a part of have been about girlhood or about, teenage girls and the relationships and the love between them. And I think less on a personal level, but more on, if you zoom out on like a societal level, those stories are just so not ever taken seriously. And even within our industry, people don't, the industry itself doesn't believe that those stories can succeed, whether it's financially or critically or whatever it is. And I've been so beyond honored to be a part of multiple that are just proving that wrong. And I think you are all a testament to the power of young women, and our industry is finally catching up to that. We want to see ourselves on screen. We'll pay the money. We'll bring our friends. We'll do it, and we can succeed. I think for me, obviously, these women were in a different generation, even than you and me, Storm. But one up was like Bridesmaids. Bridesmaids changed my life because Bridesmaids made money, and it was nominated for Oscars, and it changed the way it felt like they were opening a door to all of us. Like, look, we can do it. Like, if we make great projects, people will come and they'll do well and they'll make money. And I think specifically with young women, the stakes are even higher. Like, we're just not told that those movies or those shows are going to succeed. And then look at all of you. Like, it's so moving to me. And I think collectively we're giving teenage women and young women more time, and we're giving them more complexity, and we're giving them more space. And then that is succeeding. And that is, I think, the really beautiful part of it. But of course, they're underestimated. All of those stories are underestimated. They're not funded the same way as movie. The list can go on and on. But I think the thrill and the joy of being here with you guys today is just watching you all prove them wrong. It's just like really emotional and exciting.
Yeah, if I can talk next. Yeah, like exactly what Beanie said. Like, I don't like try to flex, never have I ever much. But there's a nice little feeling when you prove to people all around the world that a story focused around a girl, focused around her female friendships that aren't toxic, where there's no mean girl, bully, cat fight, whatever thing, and the girls of color and her best friends are also of color. It's like, hey, guess what? Like, we can pull the numbers, okay? Like, yo, we're pretty cool. We have the numbers to prove it, and I'll show it to you if you want. Netflix, you might actually have to. I don't know. But you get my point. Like, we've proven it. Like, everybody here has proven it. I've seen, like, all of your guys' work, like, fangirl moment, okay? Now I just needed to say that. All you guys are so inspiring, and you guys just take up that space. And it's funny how we say, like, the next generation, Beanie, I'm including you, the next generation, right? Like, we say the next generation like it's Star Trek, but it's not. We're the present generation. Like, that's the thing. Like, Storm, you said, like, we're Gen Z. We're not perfect. We're not, like, woke out the womb. We don't know everything, right? But we're still doing it now. We're not waiting till we become adults or whatever that means. We're just doing it now because it needs to happen now. There's no better time than the present. I remember my 17-year-old self when I was trying to decide, like, what university to go to, whether I was going to go for animation to become an animator or, do theater. And my best friend's sister, she said, like, yo, just do acting, man. You love it. And I'm like, it'd be hard, like, and I don't know if I'm, like, that good. Like, my high school wasn't an art school. It was a business technology school that I got kicked out of, and I went to the mainstream program. But I was like, I don't know. And she said, Well, think of it like this. There's no better time than the present to be a brown girl becoming an actress. So do it. Go, because somebody's gotta. And Kelly, you said this before, and about the pressures, about feeling like you have to represent like a whole big community. Thank you for saying that, because I always constantly feel that I needed that reality check. But there is a pressure, and somebody does have to do it. At the same time, like, we're human, and if we just do it together, we'll cover our bases. We'll really get there and keep proving people wrong. Like with Bridesmaid, that movie's hilarious. And one day, I want to be so cool and so big that I can make like a South Asian bridesmaid. You know how crazy it would be to see a bunch of South Asian women plan an Indian wedding? That'd be crazy. Trust me, it's like a week-long thing. It would probably have to be a 3-series like movie. Like, couldn't just be in one. That'd be a big deal. I gotta figure that out soon. But the possibilities are endless, and we could all just, totally. Wait, I can't say ass. We could all totally do it. Yes, that. Yeah, guys. Okay, love you guys. That's all.
I just wanted to say thank you to Kelly. You made me cry. I don't know if y'all saw, it was really embarrassing for a second. It was a little cry session, but what you said, it is really nice to see, to have your struggles feel heard. And, and I know that I wouldn't wish those struggles on anybody, but to feel understood and to feel heard by all you women, it feels so phenomenal. But I also just want to add is I feel like people are realizing, especially now, though we're young, and especially through sometimes social media makes me want to roll my eyes, and sometimes I hate it, but sometimes I'm like, yes. And people are realizing, we do have the power. I think people are really starting to see it right now. People are really listening. They're really listening. And now more than ever, we're able to kind of really voice our opinions and voice our experiences. And that's honestly been a blessing. It's been a blessing to just be able to listen to everybody else's stories, and especially as of recent with everything going on and hearing, especially through this industry, the Black community and their experiences and what they've been going through. And I've had, friends come to me and tell me their experiences that I had no idea. And granted, being Latin, I face some of my own stuff, but hearing everybody else's and just knowing that, we're really kind of all in this together, it really feels really, really great. And yeah, what she just said, you guys are all phenomenal. I've seen pretty much all of your guys' stuff too. So you guys are all amazing. And yeah, I feel honored to be talking with you guys right now. So yeah.
This is the best. I wish we could all get a drink. Right? Which shows my age, because I'm also in a later generation.
Like, not all of us.
I'm at a Martinelli's.
Okay.
No, but it's just been really, really wonderful to hear everyone's experience and everyone's stories. And I think the more I go through this and the more I hear from other young women about their experiences, especially in those moments when you feel isolated, when you feel like you're not being heard, when you feel like you're being labeled as ungrateful or as whatever for just voicing your opinion. I think something that really helps me and something that this conversation has sort of like renewed in me is the idea that even if you are technically alone in that room with someone else who isn't listening, there are so many women and there are so many people who hear you who just might not be physically in the room, and just recognizing that you're not alone in that. I think that's the sinister thing, and that's how people, keep us quiet, is making you feel like you're alone when in reality, there's so many people who feel the same way. So I'm very grateful that we were able to have this weird quarantine Zoom and just to be able to hear all of your experiences is really inspiring. So, yeah.
I love hearing all of your personal experiences and about all your projects, but I wanted to close by actually asking, for the industry as a whole, what you guys think this year in terms of films and TV series really helps make progress and that you're proud of being part of this industry. And on the flip side, there's anything you think might have set us back this year? Anyone?
That's a very hard question. I'm not even gonna answer. I'm just gonna like say that's a hard question.
Can you repeat that beginning part again?
Yeah, if there's any projects from this year, films or TV series that you think really show how far we've come as an industry right now, and if on the other side, if there's any you think this year set us back. I just want to know about current projects that you guys are excited about that aren't yours.
I mean, even Euphoria in itself. I mean, Zendaya winning her Emmy. I mean, amazing, phenomenal. I cried. I was so ecstatic, and really, I mean, even those stories and you know, seeing all those characters, it was so well represented, and you know, I felt watching that. I felt really great. I felt really understood, and I think everybody watching it would feel the same. You know, it's kind of going back and watching yourself growing up, and it's a really relatable story. And Zendaya winning an Emmy was, I mean, just remarkable. I mean, it's iconic. It's phenomenal. So I think that was a step forward in the right direction, and that's only the beginning. So much more needs to be done. So much more needs to happen. I mean, the fact that she was youngest and first Black woman to win. I mean, we need more of that. We need more of that. Period. So.
Anyone else before we close?
I mean, I can agree. Zendaya winning an Emmy was really damn cool, especially because she's been someone that I have looked up to my entire life, basically. But I mean, there's been so many beautiful projects that have come out. But I think if I guess I am answering this question, but like, what more can we do? And I think conversations like this, and trying to just create opportunities for ourselves and for other people. Like, there are so many projects that, again, are beautiful and were amazing this year, but I truthfully don't feel like there were enough projects that represented us. And when I say us, I mean women and women of color, and just like, I don't think there were some, but there weren't enough projects just representing the real world as a whole and how we operate now. And I feel like that has to do with 2020 just being the craziest year that I've ever lived through. But I think from this point on, I am dedicated to trying to make opportunities not only for myself, but for people who deserve them, and really opening the door up and not closing that door when I get inside, but leaving that door open, putting a wedge down there and saying, come on, like, we're going to collaborate, we're going to make projects together, and we're going to really show the world what they're missing out on. So I think it's a question of like, what more can we be doing? What more could you be doing? And how could you be of service in this industry, to your career and others?
Thank you. Just off of that, I had the privilege of watching Olivia Wilde for many years, and she always says that it's our job the second we step up to reach down and pull the next person up behind us. And it's like a daisy chain, like you pull them up, then they pull the next person, and they pull the next person. And I just always, that imagery really stuck with me, of this like chain of, and I feel like we're making the chain even longer today, and wider. But I think it's such an important, beautiful, process that you were talking about, Storm, that I just love the way Olivia always described it to me in a way that really stuck with me. It's this like daisy chain of women just and non-binary people and everyone just pulling one another up. If you get a step, you have to reach behind you and pull the next person up with you.
Yeah,
thank you guys.
Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
no, you go.
No, it's just what Beanie was saying. It's like building a community. And there's a saying that's like, alone you can go faster, but together we can go further. So, I mean, it's not only us. We are such a small part of the big picture, and definitely building community and everything. I agree with everything Storm said. Yes. And we all have friends, and even outside of this, we all have friends who want to be directors, who are writing, who are creating during this time. And we need to make sure we're supporting them and their aspirations as well, and using our platforms to lift them up, because we have the ability to, and we're so blessed to.
I love all your answers. Well, thank you guys so much for spending this time with us today. It was an amazing conversation. Thanks to our panelists and everyone tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your Power Women Summit 2020 experience. We have lots more exciting programming coming your way. So thank you.